The shot that morning didn't just break the silence on my ranch, it broke something inside me. Because in the span of 5 seconds, I watched my $50,000 prize bull Titan drop to the dirt, while a group of strangers invited by my HOA president Bethany Crowell stood there acting like they owned the place. And that was the moment I knew something was very, very wrong in this community. I remember exactly how the day started. Sunlight was barely pushing through the old blinds in my kitchen, the kind of slow Montana sunrise that makes you feel grounded, steady, like the world's still a decent place. I was nursing a cup of coffee, staring out at the pastures my family had worked for 3 generations, thinking about nothing more serious than whether the fences needed fixing before winter. And then crack. The sound hit me like a punch to the chest. One shot, then another, then a third. My mug slammed onto the counter, coffee splashing everywhere as I ran for the front door. My boots hit the porch so hard I felt it in my teeth. Out beyond the barn I saw movement shapes, rifles, men in camo walking with this casual swagger that only comes from either authority or stupidity. Turned out it was both. In front of them was Bethany Crowell, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, strutting like she'd just conquered my land in the name of suburban orderliness. She wasn't supposed to have any jurisdiction out here. My ranch wasn't HOA property, not even close, but she never let legality get in the way of a power trip. I yelled, "You're trespassing. Get the hell off my land." She stopped, pushed her sunglasses down her nose, and gave me that smirk. God, that smirk, like she was about to explain simple math to a child. "Relax, Jake." I gave them permission. "You can't give permission on land that isn't yours." But she just shrugged, tossing a hand toward the group of hunters behind her. "Community concerns. Pest control. We're helping." My blood ran cold. Pest control. That's what she called my livestock. I took off toward them, shouting, waving, doing anything to get their attention. One of the hunters lifted his rifle a little too casually, and that's when I saw Titan, towering curious, stepping toward the strangers like they were just another group of ranch hands. My heart jumped into my throat. "Hey, don't you frickin'." The shot ripped the air apart. Titan staggered. My world slowed to a crawl. I don't think I breathed the entire sprint to his side. I dropped to my knees in the mud, hands pressed to his neck, feeling the life draining out of an animal I'd raised from a calf. His breathing was shallow, his eyes cloudy, and for a split second everything went quiet like the universe was holding its breath. Behind me, Bethany's voice floated over syrupy sweet. "Jake, you're making a scene." I looked up at her hands covered in Titan's blood and something in me snapped. "You did this. You're going to pay for it." But she didn't flinch, didn't back up, didn't show 1 ounce of remorse. She just sighed like I was inconveniencing her Saturday morning plans. That was when I called 911. Sheriff Morales showed up fast. His jaw locked the moment he saw Titan on the ground. He knew Bethany had crossed a line. Hell, she'd sprinted past it, but even he warned me quietly. "Jake, people like her, they have connections. Be careful." I hated hearing that, hated needing to hear it. That night, sitting alone in my kitchen with Titan gone and my land violated, I felt something I rarely feel: uncertainty. Doubt. This heavy, choking question. What if I can't win this? What if she's too big, too connected, too willing to bulldoze anyone who stands in her way? For the first time in a long time, I felt small. And then Joe knocked on my door. Joe's my neighbor, old-school rancher, the kind of guy who knows more gossip than he admits. He stepped inside, hat in hand, and said quietly, "Jake, she didn't bring those hunters for the cows. I overheard her weeks ago. She's working with a developer, Marcus Hale. They want the lake, all the land around it. They're trying to push folks out, lower property value, buy cheap." Everything clicked. The trespassing, the bogus complaints, the fake authority. Titan's death wasn't the goal, it was leverage. That realization burned hotter than the anger I felt that morning. They weren't just after my ranch, they were after the entire region. I called Sarah Whitfield, my land lawyer, and told her everything. When she arrived the next morning, she was already flipping through county records, her eyebrows slowly climbing as she saw what I hadn't forged: permits, falsified signatures, zoning applications that shouldn't exist. "Jake," she said, voice low, "Bethany's been pushing documents through the county using fake authorization. I think there's fraud involved." Maybe conspiracy. I stared at the papers, heart hammering. Can we prove it? She nodded. I think we already are. For a moment I actually felt hope until the next blow came. A contact inside the county told us a rezoning meeting was scheduled within days. If they approved it, Hale could start buying up parcels including land adjacent to mine. Once that happened, fighting back would become nearly impossible. That's when the doubt hit harder than ever. I sat out by the empty pasture where Titan used to roam. The silence felt heavy, mocking. I asked myself if this was worth it. If maybe, just maybe, I should let it go. Sell the land. Move on. Forget the fight. Because going up against a corrupt HOA president backed by a millionaire developer, that's not bravery, that's insanity. And then no reason, no warning. Titan's face flashed through my mind. Big, stubborn, gentle giant. The one I'd raised with my own hands. I realized quitting wasn't an option. I owed him more than that. I owed my land more than that. I owed myself more than that. By evening, a plan had formed. We'd gather witnesses, we'd gather documents, we'd push this thing straight into the light. And once corruption hits sunlight, it starts to rot. Word spread through the diner, then through the town. People were angry, really angry. They were tired of Bethany's reign of petty fines, harassment, favoritism, and backdoor deals. By the end of the night, nearly half the community had pledged support. Sarah and I took everything to the county commissioner's emails showing Bethany coordinating with Hale bank transfers, manipulated zoning requests. Even Sheriff Morales backed us, bringing a whistleblower statement from an HOA intern named Brad. He claimed he'd been ordered to forge signatures and adjust official dates. It should have been a slam dunk. But villains rarely go down quietly. On the day of the preliminary hearing, Bethany walked into the courthouse wearing a pearl necklace and confidence thicker than steel. She sat across from me with her lawyer whispering in her ear like she was untouchable. And for a moment, I feared she might be. The judge seemed skeptical. Bethany's lawyer hammered the idea that I was overreacting, that Titan wandered into an active hunting zone, that HOA was acting in the community's best interest. It was nauseating hearing my pain twisted into some bureaucratic fairy tale. And then the worst possible sentence came out of the judge's mouth. At this time I am inclined to dismiss. I swear the air left my lungs. My stomach dropped. I felt that same helplessness I did kneeling beside Titan, watching life disappear while I couldn't stop it. But before the gavel hit wood, the courtroom doors opened. Brad, the young whistleblower, walked in shaking, holding a folder so stuffed with papers it barely closed. "Your Honor," he said, voice trembling but loud, "I have evidence. Emails, records, audio files." He pointed directly at Bethany. "She ordered me to forge permits. She told me Hale would take care of us if we made the zone approvals look legal." The entire courtroom froze. Bethany's face drained of color. Her lawyer scrambled, whispering frantically, but Brad kept talking, gaining strength. "She said she'd fire anyone who didn't cooperate. She told Hale she could control the locals through the HOA. She said Jake's land was priority 1 because it blocked the resort's shoreline access." That last sentence lit the room on fire. Sarah submitted everything into evidence. Sheriff Morales confirmed the investigation. Even Commissioner Thornton, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. "This is criminal. And it ends today." Bethany collapsed back into her chair, hands shaking, the smirk finally gone. Everything she'd built, her influence, her control, her lies, crumbled right in front of her. The judge didn't need time to think. Effective immediately, Bethany Crowell is suspended pending criminal investigation. All zoning applications connected to her are frozen. This case proceeds to full inquiry. That was it. The moment her power cracked. The moment she realized she wasn't the queen of anything. When we walked out of that courthouse, there was no cheering, no celebration. Just a sharp, heavy silence, the kind that follows a storm finally breaking. I stepped outside, looked toward the horizon, and pictured Titan standing tall in that pasture again. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in months, I breathed like a free man. Because justice doesn't always feel triumphant. Sometimes it just feels right, and that's enough. Justice only works when ordinary people refuse to stay silent.